Velvet Room is a concept that I've had for quite a long time now. It basically is the space in which my music exists. I came up with the idea because I realized that when I was doing gigs, some venues supported my music and some venues didn't. And I was trying to figure out what that was. And that was because the music exists in its own space already. So then I wanted to create that space. So wherever I went, whatever venue, always had the Velvet Room. So everything was always received in the way that I had imagined it and conceived of it myself. During the residency, I set out to basically make the Velvet Room. So back projectors onto screens, and then we would be performing in the space in front of those screens. We had Phelps and Jamal Akbar stepped in last minute to do the week residency. This was the first time working with the visuals and putting them together with the music. I had a very strong idea of how I thought it could happen in my very poetic, metaphorical way. So it was great to speak to Natasha and share those ideas, but she has the practical knowledge to apply it. So it was great to be just this creative and be like, okay, this is my idea, what do you think? And then she came up with the revolving room, how it moves and how the projections would move, and really brought it into the material, which really helped me to move it forward.
It's always been really interesting looking at performing art and then visual art and seeing how you can create a space where they're sort of equal and they're having a really interesting dialogue, seeing how that art kind of relates to that music and that music relates back to that art. Collaboration then becomes this creative process. It becomes a give and take and a really interesting conversation between two people and their two art forms, and a way that they're almost talking through their expression. This particular project was like projection mapping and illustrating this room from scratch and sort of building it with Pariss and seeing how each wall sort of represented a certain narrative and would kind of represent a certain song in a way. And then the pieces of that wall being quite detailed and actually going back into that song and giving something back to it. When we first had the idea, we had so many elements to it, so many small things that we thought had to be there. And then as we started actually putting them together, I started realizing we don't actually need as much, we probably need less, because what's already there with the music can become too overpowering if the visual is also quite packed. The process, if anything, was seeing what worked and reducing rather than increasing. It starts off with me doing these hand drawings on paper first of the different elements of the furniture, of the bookcase, of the walls itself, the plants, having a bank of things that I could pick to compose each of the walls. And then we kind of split the work between 3 projectors and 3 screens, where it was timed so that they would change at the same time. I think working with Pariss to build a relationship between the visual and the music took time, and what was interesting was that we had time. Quite simply, like the colors and how the colors change to reflect the mood of the song and the energy that you want to kind of be feeling. It goes from like these oranges to blues, and you see this moon and you see this animation of this moon. And the idea behind that was that Celine essentially was the moon, and she's sort of singing to that spirit and singing to that energy, and we're seeing that character having a sort of appearance in this velvet room, seeing how we could not just illustrate what Pariss was singing, but add its own character to it. It definitely, at the end of it, comes together, and it is something really wonderful to watch. So for me, the week was definitely a bit of a blur, but I think being in that space and being able to be working while I was constantly listening to them playing, and maybe listening to them having the conversation about what they were going to change, and kind of without realizing subconsciously affected my work and the way I was drawing and the colors that I was using. It was really exciting to finally be able to see it come to life and see what it could look like for the first time.
The whole concept and how it could be was really there, and as the week went on, the Velvet Room started to take shape, and also the metaphysical concept of the room started to take shape. So we were having such deep conversations throughout the week about family, and it's coming up to Christmas, so we were really sharing about our deep feelings, and then obviously with the COVID situation, like the world and what's going on, and all of that is the Velvet Room. It's not just the songs that I write, and that's what I wanted it to be about. I kind of see it as being totally an immersive situation where you're not just coming in to see an artist. You're part of the art because you are in the Velvet Room. The whole week really showed me that is possible and that can happen.